Do you ever think about how you are standing? Oh, I'm standing up now at the desk and I'm consciously putting my shoulders back, sticking my chest out. But is that the right way to do it? Planting your feet on the ground, engaging your abdominal muscle. I mean, what is the proper way to stand if standing is what you do? Well, the thing is, learning to stand better could help prevent back pain and keep you upright as you age. So, what do you need to start doing if you're not doing it already? Sue Croft can help you out. She's a pelvic floor physiotherapist. Sue, I'm really posture conscious right now, but I've no idea whether I'm doing the right thing. What sort of things do you need to think of if you are keen to stand properly?
Oh, Kat, don't be too constrained by rules about anything you do in life, and standing's one of those. I think you're the best example of what you really need to do is just dance wildly and throw in a bit of still standing occasionally, but movement and keeping active is really the way you want to prevent back pain. But I think there was that article we were talking about and looking at, and I think he was talking about, he's a yoga instructor, and I think when you're doing something like yoga or Tai Chi, those postures and poses are really important because that's a part of the discipline of the actual either yoga or Tai Chi, and so they're quite structured and they make you use your muscles quite strongly. If we're doing if we're trying to do Zoom and vary our position from sitting and standing, and when you're doing that, then I think having a look at your desk height and making sure you're not too sort of awkward a position would be handy. For sure. I don't know whether your desk is movable, is it?
Well, I'm lucky to have a movable desk, but I know lots of people who don't have movable desks, or if you found yourself working from home in awkward situations, you might not be in the most ergonomic environment. I guess, Sue, it's so individual, but when it comes to general advice about posture, when we're standing up, a lot of the advice or guidance given by my mother was stand up, straight back, shoulders back, don't slouch. Is that pretty common sense?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of our things we do these days, people worry about the fact our necks are really forward and we're on our phones scrolling all the time. But there's a pretty funny meme around about all our mothers and grandmothers who are sitting knitting and crocheting, and they've got a pretty similar posture to texting. So one of the good things I think for our listeners is to remember the old adage that your best posture is your next posture. So rather than being too exact and standing too still and being too pedantic about it, it's about that fact that variation in how you stand and how you hold yourself is pretty useful. But, of course, if you are standing with your shoulders really rounded all the time, that could be something that might present with pain. And so thinking about doing an exercise like a cobra pose where you're on your tummy and you're stretching your head and neck up and really giving that spine a nice stretch is a really handy exercise, and actually is pretty evidence-based in terms of osteoporosis prevention, because you're getting all those muscles pulling on the spine, and that's something that we women particularly have to be aware of when we go through menopause and we're losing estrogen. Then we are a little bit at risk of bone density, and we can start getting that classic sort of Dowger's hump if we've got a bit of osteoporosis, which has caused some wedging of our thoracic spine. So I think that's where we get that quite exaggerated posture where women are quite bent over. And that, what we do about that comes right back to how we eat and how we exercise in much younger years when we're trying to develop our bone bank and get getting our children to eat and exercise healthily so that they're in older age, that bone bank is sort of nicely held up.
And we hear a lot about the importance of strength and strength training, especially with age, and how important it is to have a core that can kind of keep you upright or keep you in the quote unquote the right position. Sue, is that sort of advice that you'd encourage people to be mindful of, that strength especially of your core?
Yeah, so look, our muscles we have postural muscles, which we call anti-gravity muscles. They're naturally stimulated by weight bearing. So, you know, you don't have to work exceptionally hard at doing that. Walking and moving is what we want to do. But if you know, we've talked before about how if your abdominal muscles are overly switched on, then you might have trouble in my very favourite area, which is the pelvic floor, where you're sort of over exercising your abs. You might be overactive with your pelvic floor. And so I think it's really this thing about, I worry about us having too many rules about how we stand, how we sit, how we do things, having core exercises, because if we don't individualise what we're telling patients or telling people and say, look, in terms of prolapse and the like, but getting that individual attention. But yeah, look, I think the message is your best posture is your next posture. Keep moving. Be aware that doing some stretching. You know, when we were in cave dwellers, we used to reach into the trees to gather fruit. We'd carry loads on our back and we'd dig gardens. We're walking long distances. So we're so much more sedentary these days than we were then. And I think that can definitely lead to problems.
Use it or lose it. With that in mind, Sue Croft, we might have a little bit of Birds of Tokyo, Lanterns, a lovely song with a little rhythm that you could move to however you can. Sue Croft, a real pleasure. Thank you so much for your top tip today.